Carry the scars of many loves and heartaches. The story I'm about to share is of an older man who, in search of a new purpose in life, began dating a woman much younger than himself. He was captivated by her enthusiasm and intelligence. She was 20 years younger, full of life, and possessed a beauty he thought he would never see again. He did not suspect that this radiance hid a shadow that only he would notice over time. He immediately understood that this relationship would be challenging. Friends reacted. Young people reprimanded him, and he had his own reservations, but at 70 years old, his heart still beat strongly, and he wanted to prove it to himself. Even though he managed to conquer and keep a young woman, his hesitation turned into obsession. He wanted to give everything as if everything was almost perfect. The last love story of his life. She gave him a new lease on life, but the price to pay was enormous, and only realized it later. At first everything was almost perfect. She showered him with kind words, praise, and compassion. He felt strong and virile, rediscovering a youth he thought was long gone. She knew exactly how to seduce him, and he succumbed to each of her gazes and movements. He went to great lengths to satisfy her, treating her as if she were royalty. But what he did not realize was that she began to impose minor demands, always with that air of superiority that he mistook for pure attraction. The changes in her behavior became more and more evident over time. Subtle humiliations disguised his changes in her behavior. Comments began to appear. She told him he should take better care of himself because people his age should not have such physical limitations. At first he tried to laugh, believing it was a joke, but the frequency increased and the laughter began to fade. She never stopped telling him he was too old for her. The final straw was when she focused her criticisms on his performance in bed. He, who had always believed he could bring affection and emotional satisfaction, found himself facing harsh and pointed criticisms. She asserted that he was slow, predictable, and incapable of satisfying her like a younger man. Woody tried to argue to convince her that age does not limit a person's ability to make others happy, but her comments were too cutting to be ignored. He then remembered Woody tried to argue the power he exercised, or rather his method. He assured her that despite his lack of youthful strength, he knew how to delight her in a special, unique way. Through his devotion and care, he said it with a passion and confidence that few younger men could match. But instead of honoring him, she mocked what she considered a desperate attempt by an old man to be useful. This mockery tore his heart apart. He felt humiliated, but tried to convince himself that it was a test of patience and resilience. He hoped that by being understanding, she would eventually see his value and devotion. However, each of these statements pushed him to devalue himself further, and he began to perceive himself as unimportant and of little value in the eyes of a young woman. For anyone witnessing this, he made a decision story. It may seem simple to condemn his decision to stay, yet anyone who has lived a long time understands that love, especially in its most terrible form, can take us hostage and force us to accept things we would never have tolerated. Otherwise, he was no longer just bound by the youth of the young woman, but also by the idea that he could prove himself to someone who seemed unable to see beyond his age. One night, following a dispute that made him feel even smaller, he made a decision. He looked at himself in the mirror and saw a 70-year-old man with wrinkles of old age on his face and the weight of experience in his eyes. He recognized that self-love must speak louder, because he could not live in the shadow of approval from someone who would never accept him for who he was. He faced her calmly, then decided to face her calmly. He indicated that he was ready to end the relationship, because no matter how much he loved her, he could not continue to be humiliated. She looked at him in astonishment, as if she did not expect him to have the courage to do it. Yet at that moment, he regained some of the dignity he had lost with each of her remarks. The conversation was unpleasant but liberating. He felt like he was finally acting his age, not in the sense of fragility but in the sense of wisdom. He remembered all the years he had lived, the experiences he had, and the value he still possessed, no matter how many wrinkles he had or his age upon leaving after leaving her house. Her house, he felt a sense of relaxation. He had not known for months. He recognized that it is sometimes vital to accept that not everyone will understand the value we bring. Especially those who only see the surface here recognize that, by submitting to humiliation, he had lost himself. Yet by freeing himself, he regained not only his self-esteem, but also the tranquility of a love that only he could offer. The following days were difficult to live through. Loneliness returned, but it was a clean, dignified loneliness without the burden of having to prove something to anyone. He realized that even without her, he remained a man of value, someone who embodied the pure spirit of what love is this self. Love, a few months later, allowed him to move forward. This event taught him that not all young people deserve to sacrifice their dignity, and that true love is one that accepts, respects, and cherishes all people regardless of their physical abilities or age. A few months later, he discovered new joys in life. He reconnected with old acquaintances, visited places he had always wanted to see, and rediscovered activities he had abandoned. He recognized that his value did not depend on the approval of a younger woman, but rather on the peace he found in looking. He had abandoned at himself. Each wrinkle on his face tells a story, and each gray hair marks a memory. He understood that aging brings the wisdom to know what is truly important. He no longer needed to sacrifice himself to satisfy others. Instead, he became more interested in his own satisfaction. This anecdote serves as a reminder to other older people who have the same doubts. The desire for love is understandable, but it should never come at the expense of inner serenity. Lessons are learned over time, and only those who have lived a long time understand the importance of preserving their dignity in the face of the deceptive promises of youth and hindsight. In hindsight, he realized that this relationship had been a precious learning opportunity. It was a lesson in acceptance and the importance of putting one's own principles first. No matter the criticism, he learned that to be loved, he first had to love himself completely with all his flaws and strengths for him. Ending the relationship meant reclaiming his identity. Many see in this story an example of the importance of self-love even when everything around seems to conspire against our confidence. Only the value of dignity. Older people should see this film because they understand the value of dignity. He discovered that a man's value is determined by his integrity in the face of adversity, not by his age. And it is this integrity that turns every wrinkle into a symbol of wisdom. Based on this story, I would like to propose 5 lessons for older people who have relationship problems. The first lesson is that as tempting as it may be to recreate the glory of youth with someone younger, it is essential to keep your feet on the ground and not get lost in the first lesson. The illusion. Many people, like the character, end up devoting their time and energy to someone who does not truly appreciate them. The desire to prove that one still has vigor and capabilities can become a trap, forcing us to accept humiliations that we would never have tolerated at other stages of life. Love should not be a testing ground, but rather an environment of respect and mutual acceptance. The second lesson. The second lesson story teaches us is the value of self-love. By accepting costly comments about his performance in age, he felt like he was giving up a part of himself. He thought that tolerating her criticisms in the name of love was a noble act, but in reality, he was sacrificing his dignity. Loving oneself is a commitment that must precede any relationship, because forgetting one's own value is to expose oneself to the contempt of others. Recognizing that we deserve respect and affection is the foundation of any healthy relationship. The third lesson is to have the courage to free oneself and accept loneliness as a kind of peace. Even if it is only temporary. When he decided to end this relationship, it was more than just a breakup. It was a rehabilitation for himself. He chose the most difficult, but the third lesson, also the most valuable path. Choosing to be alone rather than continuing to be humiliated is a sign of strength. Sometimes loneliness is a place of restructuring self-esteem and not a punishment. In truth, he gave himself the opportunity to regain his inner calm that no one could take away from him. The fourth lesson is that with age, our experiences and memory become true treasures, and those who do not recognize this only lock themselves into superficiality. Wrinkles, gray hair, the fourth lesson. Sign of time tells a story and offers a learning opportunity. He understood that he did not need to model himself after an image of pristine youth, because what he had was much deeper. Those who seek the superficial will never appreciate the value of accumulated wisdom. Therefore, it is useless to try to please someone who does not understand who we are. The fifth lesson is that being attentive to a partner's needs, particularly physical closeness, is the fifth lesson show of affection. He thought that even if he no longer had the physical vigor of his youth, he could express his devotion and desire through other means. This demonstration of affection and devotion often shows a man willing to put his partner's needs before his own pride. However, respect must be mutual. Offering a certain closeness is a sign of interest, but should not be interpreted as an obligation or a cause for embarrassment. In this example, he learned that no matter how hard he tried to please her, his efforts must be recognized. The lesson he draws from this is that true closeness requires respect and consideration, not judgments or criticisms. If you were touched by the story and think these teachings can help others, please subscribe to the channel and like the video. Share this message with others who might need to reflect on the value of dignity and self-love. The greatest life lessons come from the stories of people who have lived long enough to understand what is truly important. Understanding the things women do when they want you can reveal a lot about their true feelings. Often their actions speak louder than words, and these signs can be both subtle and clear. In this video, we'll break down the key things women tend to do when they're interested in you, from the way they interact with you to the small gestures they make. These clues can help you understand her intentions. So make sure to stick around till the end of the video, as we'll dive into some of the most telling signs that you won't want to miss. Let's get started. Intense eye scanning. Number 1. Intense eye scanning. Eyes don't lie, especially when someone's attracted to you. If a woman wants you physically, her eyes will give her away. She'll look at you in a way that feels deeper or more intense, almost like she's trying to study you. You might notice her eyes moving slowly from your eyes to your lips or even down to your chest, as if she's taking you in piece by piece. This kind of gaze isn't just casual, it's intentional and lingers longer than normal. For example, imagine you're sitting across from her at dinner, and while you're talking, you catch her eyes subtly moving from your face to your shoulders and back up again. That's her silently admiring you, and it's a sign she's drawn to you in a physical way. The more it happens, the more it shows. She's not just paying attention to what you're saying, she's noticing every little thing about you. Number 2, the do and smile. The do and smile can say more than words ever will, especially when it's the do and smile. The do and smile is a genuine, heartfelt smile that shows real happiness. It's the kind of smile where both her mouth and eyes light up, showing she's not just smiling out of politeness, but because she's truly happy to be around you. If a woman likes you, she might give you this smile without even realizing it. For example, imagine you make her laugh during a conversation and she responds with a big smile that reaches her eyes, making them sparkle. This type of smile is an obvious sign that she's comfortable with you and enjoys your presence. It's a clear signal that she feels a connection and she's genuinely attracted to you, not just playing along or being polite. If you notice her giving you a do and smile, it's a great sign that she likes you and feels a genuine bond with you. Third, touches her neck or collarbone. I know you might have noticed a woman sometimes touch her neck or collarbone in a subtle way. Well, that can mean she's into you. This little gesture can be a sign of attraction and nervousness, showing that she's aware of her body and how you might be looking at her. For instance, imagine you're having a conversation and she lightly brushes her fingers along her collarbone or plays with her hair while looking at you. This kind of movement can indicate that she feels a spark of chemistry and is trying to draw your attention to her. It's almost like she's signaling that she wants to be noticed and is comfortable enough to show a bit of vulnerability. So if you catch her doing this while you're chatting or laughing together, it's a good sign she's interested in you and wants to create a connection. 4, flirty body language. This is one of the most obvious signs a woman is interested in you. When she likes you, her body will naturally lean towards you, almost like it's drawn to you. She might tilt her head slightly, raise her eyebrows, or make subtle movements that keep you in her focus. You might notice her adjusting her posture, standing or sitting in a way that shows off her shape or curves. For example, imagine you're talking to her and she leans in close, making eye contact and smiling, while gently tilting her head to one side. She could also play with her hair or maybe even touch her lips while listening to you. These little actions are all signs that she's into you. It's like her body is sending signals that she wants to be closer to you both physically and emotionally. If you notice her doing this, it's a pretty clear sign she's interested and wants to create a connection. Number 5, frequent. Frequent touches when it comes to attraction. Sometimes actions speak louder than words, and one of the most telling signs is frequent touches. If a girl is interested in you, she might find little ways to make physical contact, whether it's a gentle touch on your arm during a conversation or a playful nudge when she laughs at your jokes. These touches can create a sense of closeness and intimacy, making you feel more connected. For example, imagine you're sitting together at a cafe, and as you share a funny story, she leans in closer and lightly taps your hand or rests her fingers on your forearm. This simple gesture can convey warmth and interest, showing that she feels comfortable around you and enjoys your company. Frequent touches like these are often her way of expressing affection without saying a word, letting you know that she's drawn to you and wants to build a deeper connection. Number 6, sitting. Close, picture this. You're hanging out with a girl, and as the conversation flows, she gradually moves closer to you. This is a strong sign that she's interested when a girl wants you. She often tries to close the physical distance between you two. She might lean in while talking, sit right next to you instead of across the table, or even find reasons to be closer during a group hangout. This closeness isn't just about being physically near. It shows that she feels comfortable and safe around you. For example, if you're at a movie and she leans her head on your shoulder or rests her arm against yours, it's her way of expressing affection and wanting to connect more deeply. The closer she gets, the more it indicates that she enjoys your company and is open to building a stronger bond. So guys, if you notice her sitting close to you during your time together, it's a great sign that she's interested in you. 7th leg, crossing legs. Legs can speak volumes, especially when a woman crosses them in your direction. When a woman crosses her legs towards you, it often signals interest and engagement. This body language can indicate that she feels comfortable in your presence and is subconsciously orienting herself to be more aligned with you. Crossing legs towards someone is a nonverbal cue that can suggest attraction, as it shows the person is not closing themselves off but rather is open to the interaction. For example, imagine you're sitting across from her at a cafe. As you share a laugh, she subtly shifts her posture, crossing her legs so that her feet point in your direction. This small yet significant gesture indicates that she's engaged in the conversation and feels a connection with you. It's a clear sign that she's interested and comfortable around you. Slightly parted lips. 9. Slightly parted lips. One of the most subtle yet powerful flirting cues is when she parts her lips while looking at you. This isn't something most people do intentionally. It's usually a natural response when someone feels drawn to someone else. Parted lips can show she's interested, open, and maybe even a bit mesmerized by you. If she's listening to you talk and her lips are slightly parted, or if she glances at you and her mouth opens just a little, it's often a sign you've captured her attention in more than a friendly way. Picture this: you're telling a story, and you catch her looking at you with her lips just slightly open, almost like she's about to say something but holds back. That's her body language showing interest, hinting that she's engaged and attracted. Mimic behavior. Number 10, mimicking behavior. They say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, and when it comes to attraction, mimicking behavior can reveal a lot about how a girl feels about you. If she likes you, she might start to copy your gestures, speech patterns, or even your favorite phrases. This isn't just coincidence. It shows that she feels a connection with you and wants to bond on a deeper level. For example, let's say you often use a specific catchphrase when you're excited, like "that's awesome." If she starts saying it too, or mirrors your hand movements while talking, it's a sign that she's paying close attention to you and trying to create a sense of closeness. This kind of behavior can make interactions feel more comfortable and fun, as it reflects her interest in being more like you and sharing experiences together. So if you notice her picking up on your quirks or habits, it's a good indication that she's into you. In summary, recognizing the things women do when they want you can give you a clearer understanding of her feelings. I hope this video helped you spot those important signs. If you enjoyed the content, Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more. See you in the next video.